Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Kristen, and if you're new here, this is a corner of the interwebs where I come at you every other week or so and share what I've been making. I do a lot of knitting, I do a lot of crochet, I do a lot of quilting, I do a lot of sewing. There's a lot happening on this channel, so if you are into that type of thing, if you're multi-craftual, you're in a good place. I hope you had a happy Thanksgiving, and I'm trying to think, are there any other housekeeping notes I want to touch on before we get into things? I think we're good. I think we're good. So without further ado, let's talk about what I've been knitting on. And as you know, I have been plugging away at my Fruit Tingles shawl, which is a pattern by Ambah O'Brien. And guys, still working on it. And I'm not gonna lie, as much as this pattern is enjoyable to work on, even though this pattern is easy breezy, a walk in the park, for some reason, I'm having a hard time finishing it. Seriously, all that's left to do, I have to knit a couple more rows of garter stitch and then one more of these and we're ready to bind off. So I'm close. And I did take a little break from this over the Thanksgiving break and to work on something else, just, you know, a palette cleanser, if you will. Anyway, I'll get into it later. But yeah, I just couldn't bring myself to put any more rows into this for some weird reason. But this week I sat down and got some more work done on it. So here is where we are. This is my hand-dyed yarns, Voolenvine yarns on my Gosling base, which is a beautiful blend of alpaca, merino, and silk. And yeah, no doubt this is gonna block out beautifully. I just, you know, again, not to toot my own horn, but I love this base so much. It's just so soft and silky. And yeah, that silk content is just gonna make this whole shawl bloom once it's blocked. I could totally see myself knitting another one. Just if I were to, I would definitely, to hold my interest, I would definitely use multicolored, either like mini skeins or just different colored yarns for the stripy bits here, which I'll hold up so you can see. Yeah, these are just, it's so pretty, guys. I mean, Ambah O'Brien, I don't know how she does it, but this is the second pattern that I've knit by Ambah O'Brien, and I have to say, she, you know, granted, I've only knit 2 so far, she really does know how to like take almost like a really complex, beautiful stitch motif and make it pop or shine using just very simple construction, if that makes any sense. So yeah, but if I were to knit this again, I would definitely alternate colors or like different colors for these little stripes just to hold my interest and keep it interesting for myself, because while I really do love the color scheme happening in this shawl, you know, not having that other colorway to look forward to in the next stripe, this became more about the finish line rather than the journey, so to speak. So anyway, very, very excited to finally be done with this so I can wear it and enjoy it. So yeah, that was the Fruit Tingles shawl by Ambah O'Brien. Yeah, a really, really lovely pattern, and I highly recommend it. Next up, surprise, surprise, is a new cast on. You know, again, I have no business casting on new projects. I have so many that I need to finish, but I was going stash diving and stumbled on some skeins of yarn that I have kind of, you know, languishing as you do. And, you know, this yarn might look familiar. If you've been tuning in for a while, you might remember the time when Dennis and I were getting ready to move from Brooklyn to Portchester. And I had cast on a crochet blanket using some yarn that I picked up from Michael's. I think it was like, you know, on sale for like $5 a skein. Anyway, picked up this glorious yarn. Does this look familiar? Yeah. So again, I cast on a crochet blanket using just a pattern that came on the ball band, because my brain at that time, you know, with all the craziness of moving and stuff, I really just wanted to check out and make something simple. So I got pretty far with the blanket. I think I made about like 10 squares. But, you know, revisiting that blanket, like the other day, the day before Thanksgiving, I just went stash diving, going through my stash and found the blanket, and I was just like, I'm not crazy. I'm not excited about the finished project. But I do really love the yarn, and I would really love to have a sweater out of this. And, you know, I said, to hell with it. You know, we're gonna scrap the blanket project and we're gonna cast on something new. And because it was the day before Thanksgiving, I was also kind of getting my ducks in a row as far as what projects I wanted to take with me, because we were driving out to Pennsylvania to spend Thanksgiving with Dennis's family. And, you know, it's not a long drive, but it's about like well, it ended up with traffic and everything, it ended up being a 3-hour drive. So I'm really glad that I brought some projects with me. But, you know, just to kind of get in the spirit, the holiday spirit, if you will, I decided to let myself cast something on. So this is Caron Crystal Cakes, and I believe this is the Starry Night colorway. I actually did a search on Google to see if I could find this colorway again, and you'd be hard pressed. I don't think they make this color anymore. I don't know, you might be able to find something on eBay, but yeah, I thankfully purchased, I think, about 4 cakes of this. Again, $5 a pop, and you get, this isn't even in the full cake. This is only halfway through, which is crazy sauce because these cakes are huge. They're huge. And then this one is also by Caron. This is Caron Cloud Cakes. So you got the crystal cakes and the cloud cakes, because the crystal cakes come with glorious stellina in there. Look at that sparkle. It's like an ombre. But then the cloud cakes are more of kind of like this velvety chenille texture. Yeah, just very, very incredibly soft and next to skin, which is surprising because acrylic. All acrylic. I'm, you know, color me impressed. All acrylic. But it has such a really nice soft hand. So anyway, all that to say, my plan was to knit a sweater or a cardigan, marling these two together. And because these are already Aran weight yarns, knitting them held together, you'd get a bulky weight or chunky weight yarn. So I hopped on Ravelry and did a search for a cardigan using bulky weight yarn and stumbled on this one called, I believe it's called the Home Cardigan by Caidree. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I will pop all the information in the down bar, and I will link to everything that I mention in this episode in the description box below. But yes, I stumbled on the Home Cardigan by Caidree and cast it on, and here we are. We have a cardigan. Ta-da! And guys, I love this. I'm kind of obsessed. I have clearly have not been able to put it down. And yeah, here's what the back looks like. Again, just marling the 2 yarns together, and yeah, look at that shimmer. This is gonna be, I think, my new favorite cardigan that I'm not gonna wanna stop wearing. And the construction of this cardigan is really, really simple and clever too. So the pattern has you cast on and then knit a certain length, and then you put your stitches on some scrap yarn, come back to the top, the cast on edge, and cast on the right front and then the left front and shape the neckline. And then once you're finished with that, you bring everything together, you know, joining the sleeves, creating the sleeve holes, and then you're picking up from where you left off and just knitting the rest of the body. So once that's done, I get to knit the sleeves and add the ribbing, and I will have a finished cardigan. So yeah, you can kind of see where I picked up the stitches there. It's not the neatest thing, and I think that the the gradient isn't really helping to conceal that, but it's not terrible. I'm not mad about it. I actually like the fact that each side is different, that they're not symmetrical, that you're getting a different kind of gradient shift on either side. It's, you know, yeah, it's just so fun. It's so fun, guys. So yeah, I don't know if you can tell, but this is gonna have kind of like a dropped shoulder effect, drop sleeve effect, if you will. But yeah, it's all just simple stockinette back and forth with some simple shaping, and yeah, just a really lovely, nice, relaxing pattern, which was perfect for Thanksgiving. You know, for the ride over, you know, I'm just sitting in the passenger seat talking with Dennis. I didn't knit during Thanksgiving dinner. Didn't really have the opportunity to do that. But you know, for the car ride there and back, this came in handy for sure. I might, again, like this yarn, I have some more cakes in my stash, and I think, okay, so if you can believe it, this blob right here is from these 2 cakes. So it's still going strong. You know, if I can make a full cardigan just using these 2 cakes, I will be very surprised. I mean, if anything, I think I may end up dipping into some other cakes that I have in my stash, but you know, once this is all done, I think I should have about like 3 more of each of these left over. So I think, because I'm loving this so much, like the way it's knitting up, I would love to also have a pullover out of this yarn too. So I think, you know, if I have enough yarn left over, I'm gonna make a pullover out of this yarn as well. It's just so beautiful. Like these are my colors, guys. This, yeah, This screams Kristen. So anyway, let's talk about the mall, guys. Our epic make-along, which if you are participating and using social media to share your progress, your whips, your FOs, do use hashtag Voolenvine epic MAL, just so everyone can follow along, that I can see what you're making and, you know, comment and all that stuff. You know, there's so many wonderful, beautiful projects already in the works. Yeah, it's a lot of fun, guys. So if you are thinking about joining, please do. It's going to be a year-long make-along, so you have from now until January 1st, 2025, which sounds so far off, but we all know how fast time flies when you're having fun, right? Right? For my project, as I mentioned last week, I am going to pull my fruit garden blanket out of hibernation, which I already have. I'm staring at it. It's in a bag, project bag. I'm going to get to it, but in the meantime, I started my other project for this epic mall, which is, let me see. Oh, here we go. It is the Tula Nova, a pattern by Tula Pink, who, if you're not familiar, Tula Pink is a fabric designer. She's known for, clearly, as you can see, like her crazy, beautiful, bright colors. Since I got into quilting, I have just been kind of obsessed with Tula Pink. Again, like normally when it comes to knitting and it comes to making garments for myself, I stick to neutrals, very, you know, moody colors, you know, obviously black, gray, mauve, greens, but with quilting, it's a whole nother world. It's a whole nother story, guys, because yeah, quilting just allows me to shamelessly play with color, because I know at the end of the day, I'm not actually wearing it, but I can decorate with it. I can, you know, create something really, really useful and beautiful using all these colors. And it's just so fun. I kind of fell off the bandwagon a little bit with EPP, but recently, totally rhymed, I've fallen back into it, and I forgot how much I enjoyed it. So, you know, when it came to looking for a project that I wanted to tackle for our epic mall, I stumbled, you know, I was already infatuated with Tula Pink fabrics and decided how cool would it be to make the Tula Nova, which essentially is a more blown up version of the La Passacaglia. Because yeah, if you remember, the La Passacaglia is they're made of little tiny pieces. Tula has blown it up. Like, she's made it massive. So just to show you the scale, which I think I showed this last week, but I got the template set. So you can buy a bundle where they send you the templates to cut out your fabric, and they also send you the pieces of paper, so you don't have to sit there cutting out each and every tiny piece of paper. They, you know, cut out some of that work for you, which I can appreciate. So, you know, this is the centerpiece of the Tula Nova, and here's the template version. So yeah, it's very sizable. So yeah, and you know, like even the templates are really fun. So anyway, come in a little case like that, and I got it started, the Tula Nova, which I will show you right here. And you know, as slow going as English paper piecing is, I am really surprised by how fast this is coming together. I mean, here's where we are. Yeah, my friend, I can't get over it. It's like, talk about a project that is just making me so happy. This is all Tula Pink fabric from various collections that she's done. Essentially what I've been doing is just going on Amazon and buying Tula Pink scrap bundles, and these scrap bundles are great. I talk about them, I feel like I talk about them every episode, but they really are awesome. I think for like $20 US, they send you a total of like 2 yards of quarter yard strips of Tula Pink fabric. So you can choose the collection you want. So I got scrap bundles from her line work collection, and also I'm blanking on this collection, but it has like a lot of animals. It has snakes, it has raccoons, it has squirrels, it's just a really beautiful collection. And I have to say, these scrap bundles are perfect for English paper piecing, because you're not, you know, it's like fabric at a discount, but you're still getting these really awesome prints. Anyway, yeah, so having so much fun with that. And here's what the back looks like, just so you can see. Yeah, this is, again, English paper piecing is all stitching done by hand. And, you know, like a lot of people ask me, what do you do with the papers? Do you leave them in? You can leave them in, but I like to take the papers out once every side has been surrounded. And the other reason why I remove the paper as I go is because it allows me to bend the piece as I'm sewing, so it makes you know, sewing these little tiny nooks and crannies and edges a little bit more manageable, if that makes any sense. I was a little concerned that I wasn't going to have enough roses to harvest from the fabric when it comes to fussy cutting, but I just made it, just barely made it, and I love the effect of it too. This is the print, by the way, from her snake print. I don't know if you're familiar with it. I'll try and pop a photo of it here, but if you look closely, you can see the little snake nose right there just poking out. Anyway, it's so cool. So yeah, that is the state of the Tula Nova. And because I am getting back into English paper piecing, I was kind of on the prowl for a sort of project bag to house all of my EPP kit, my tools, my notions, and you know, whenever I want to, you know, go on a trip and bring some English paper piecing along to put my little pieces in. I went ahead and ran a search on Google anyway, just searching English paper piecing project bag. Lo and behold, an Instagram reel from Tula Pink pops up where she shares what's inside of her project bag. Didn't even watch the whole video because I was completely sold on whatever project bag she was using.
So this is the Bionic Gear Bag.
She said her project bag was made by a friend using a pattern called the Bionic Gear Bag. And this is a pattern by a designer called Rip Stitcher. You can purchase and download the pattern on Etsy, and I made a beeline to Etsy, purchased, downloaded the pattern, and whipped up one myself, and here she is. Oh my gosh, guys, I'm kind of obsessed. I mean, yeah, so let me demonstrate. Not only does the zipper double as handles, but when you open it, I'm gonna try not to dump everything out, but when you open it, opens like an accordion file. I mean, mind completely blown. But what I really love about this is, you know, and why it's perfect for travel is because it has this little tray situation happening right here. So it has a, you know, looks like a sleigh, a little sled, but it has a lip. So, you know, if you can imagine like just being on a plane, having your tray table down and this sitting in front of you like so, you have all your little pieces and accoutrement right here, and this little lip prevents little rolly bits like your little clips or your glue stick or, you know, little pieces from rolling off onto the floor. I think it's a really genius design. Not only that, but you also get 4 zipper pouches in here, and then between the zipper pouches, you have these little extra nooks and crannies to tuck other things. I mean, I've got my Altoids in here. Always have Altoids, love Altoids. And then like in here, we've got some extra glue sticks, glue stick refills, got my highlighter, seam ripper, very, very important. I mean, this holds everything. I even put my little, let me see, needle minder in here. Yeah, it's just hanging out. My little needle minder, which is important because if you have a needle, which, you know, for English paper piecing, I use a very fine straw needle, which if you lose that, if that rolls off onto the floor, you know, be it in a car or on a plane, where have you, you're never gonna find it again, let's face it. But again, as with most of my quilting projects and sewing projects, don't look too closely because there are plenty of mistakes. This took me over a week to assemble because, well, the pattern is genius, I'm not gonna lie. It was challenging to get through. There were moments where I literally felt like ripping this from underneath my machine and throwing it across the wall. I got very familiar, very friendly with my seam ripper. There was a lot of cussing, there was a lot of swearing. It got very longshoreman-y in this craft room, let me tell you. So, you know, the designer, I could appreciate her colloquial and casual approach, but when it comes to complex and involved projects like this, I really need my instructions to be clear and concise and to the point. You know, that's not to say the instructions were horrible. There were a lot of, you know, it was just very friendly, very kind of tongue-in-cheek. I got a chuckle here and there, and I see where she was coming from, but I just found myself staring at walls of text, trying to weed out, you know, the extra information versus what I actually needed to do for a specific step. And the pattern does come with photos. They're not great photos. They're a little poorly lit, but you can make out what needs to happen, how things are supposed to look. So, you know, I'm I'm not throwing shade at the designer. Again, it's a brilliant pattern. From personal experience, patterns are not easy to write. So, you know, kudos to Stitch Ripper, or Rip Stitcher, I should say, for coming up with this pattern because it is genius. I'm very happy with the final result. So if you are planning to tackle this project, I would say, you know, it's a challenge, but if you just take one step at a time, you know, you'll get there. You'll get there. And you know, there are some janky bits in here, but at the end of the day, I'm the one that's using it. It works. It serves a purpose. And yeah, from far away, you know, I can't even see the mistakes. So, you know, what have you. So I will leave a link to where you can purchase and download the version by Rip Stitcher. This is definitely going to come along with me on many an adventure when I want to take my English paper piecing along. And of course, I used Tula Pink fabric to make it because why not? Why not, my friends? I do have another quilt project that I want to share with you, but just an update because in the last episode, I mentioned that I was working on a quilt for my niece. I actually was in the midst of quilting that quilt, and that was the Wonky Star quilt by, I don't want to say, it's more like a recipe. Kate from the Last Homely House shared a video on her channel on how to make a wonky star quilt, and I love the idea so much that I wanted to make my own. Of course, gathered some Tula Pink fabric and made this really fun wonky star quilt, and I could not stop thinking about my niece as I was working on it. And anyway, long story short, showed her some photos of it. I said, if I finish it, would you like it? She said yes. So I finished the quilt, and come Thanksgiving, I gifted it to her. She was very happy. It was very well received, and yeah, very happy with the way that turned out, and I'm so happy that she likes it. I hope she does. I think she does. We shall see. Just wanted to fill you guys in, let you know how that turned out. But moving along, I did go ahead and start another quilt for myself. I was browsing Etsy, as you do, and I stumbled on this pattern called the Confetti Cake Quilt by Pattern Basket Designs. And let me tell you guys, this pattern is so fun to make. I cannot stop working on it. Yes, I am amassing a very nice pile of quilt blocks, and I have a feeling I'm going to be done with this very soon. So here is one quilt block, and here is another. This pattern, I mean, it looks super complicated to make. Like, it looks like I've just been sitting here sewing little tiny squares together, but that's not how it's constructed. A lot of, you know, that's the thing, like with quilting, a lot of quilt blocks look very complicated, but their construction is so clever. It's like a trick. I don't know, I can't describe it, but yeah, I'm not sitting there sewing all little tiny squares together. I could, but why would you do that when it can be as simple as sew strips of fabric together and then cut them this way and then sew them back together the opposite direction? I mean, that's all it is. It's very simple. And one thing that I'm really loving about this that's just so satisfying, it's like scratching an itch and like a dopamine hit. I sound like a crazy woman, but bear with me, is the fact that like the seams, they just lock together perfectly every time. It's, so let me see if I can show you. Where's one with like, kind of like a high contrast, low contrast situation? Let me see. Okay, here we go. So on this one, if you look very closely, where these seams meet up, like they just, when they meet up perfectly, it feels so good. It's just so great. I'm getting so much better at being more precise with my cutting of fabric when it comes to quilting that, you know, when it comes to a pattern like this, when the seams, look at all these seams. Yeah, when they meet up at these little points and they nest together perfectly, it's like a dopamine hit, my friends. It's just so great, and that's why I can't get enough of it. Which is interesting because I have some other quilt projects that I've started. I haven't really talked about them on the channel because I didn't really get anywhere with them, and they're kind of like on the back burner for now. But I've started other quilts where it's just all curves, just curves, which is a really great technique to have when you're, you know, getting into quilting. Some people are really into that, and I can see why. But for me, I just found it kind of tedious and boring, you know? So yeah, for that project, I just kind of shoved it under the rug, if you will, and saved it for a rainy day. But there's something about like seams just nesting together perfectly that cannot get enough of. So yeah, really loving this project, loving the process. I'm here for it. yeah, have not been able to put it down. But I also really love this fabric, guys. Can we talk about it? Yeah, again, this is Midnight in the Garden by Moda Fabrics. And, you know, I just really love a good, you know, black, gray, grello, like grello as in gray and yellow, but like a really nice golden mustard. And then you throw in some pink and peach. I mean, I'm here for it, guys. Love it so much. So yeah, the way that this is gonna come together, so these are quilt blocks, obviously, but then, you know, I'm gonna put some sashing in here and sew the next quilt block, and it's actually gonna be an on-point quilt where you take your quilt block and you tilt it so it's like a diamond, and you assemble it, or you piece together your quilt blocks on the bias, if you will, which can be kind of a challenge because, you know, when you're working on a bias, if you've ever worked with bias tape, it adds that extra stretch. So getting things to lie flat and even can be kind of a challenge, but I feel like I'm getting there, guys. I feel like I'm getting more comfortable with all these techniques and it's all coming together very, very nicely. I mean, especially, I'm impressed, like, with myself that you know, this lies flat. It's flat. There's no puckering. The first block that I sewed for this quilt is another story. There's some, you know, little valleys and hills in there, but the more that I did it, the better I got. So, you know, again, practice. Practice makes perfect. And I can definitely see making another one of these because it is so fun. So anyway, that is the confetti cake quilt. And I have a funny feeling the next time I sit down and chat with you, I'm gonna have a finished quilt top. I mean, no surprise here. And I hear more leaf blowers approaching. So that's my cue. That's my cue to wrap things up, guys. Thank you. Thank you so much, as always, for hanging out with me. And if you're new here and you haven't already, feel free to like and subscribe down below. I'm putting out videos for your viewing pleasure every other week. Until the next video, have an amazing weekend, happy making, and I will see you soon. Bye.